It is July 17th, 2025, 7:59 right now. So today I want to talk about Puer Aeternus. I think several months ago, maybe even a year ago. Actually, was it a year ago? More than a year ago? I don't know, but I made a journal entry talking about how I feel like others are more mature than me, but I didn't quite get where that came from. And I think, I guess I probably did explain, but recently I came across this term called Puer Aeternus. I thought, oh wow, okay, that really resonates with me. And I think that this idea of Puer Aeternus is prevalent throughout these journals. So basically what Puer Aeternus means is it's a Jungian psychoanalytical archetype. So of course, with stuff like that, you have to take it with a grain of salt. But even with that, I came across it. It was actually through Dr. K. The things he was describing or reading from an excerpt about Puer Aeternus really resembled a lot of things I thought about myself, or the struggles I go through. And basically what this archetype is it's this archetype of perpetually staying in a position of potential and never actualization. And this is because of, well, there are many reasons. One is that it sort of lives in a fantasy world and has these expectations and is always disappointed by the reality as it does not align with expectations, and there's always a hair in the soup. I think that's a very I guess a common iconic phrase, I guess, that attaches to this archetype, that I find something wrong with everything because I have predisposed notion of everything, sort of. It's yeah, I'll get to it. And then the other thing is also, what's more resonating with me is it's about not being able to close doors. I think the reason why I like studying, I like interdisciplinary, is because it puts me in a state of growing potential and keeping a lot of doors open. I like science, I like biology especially, and I like film, art, philosophy. They're very two distinct worlds, I would say, although I like to try to interweave them. And it seem and I want both worlds, along with other things. I want to be good with finances. I want to be I'm interested in cryptology. I want to be fit. I want to have this like most optimal health, which is not even close. But there's a lot of things I want to be. But even just focusing on biology and I guess the arts, or humanities, I don't know. See, even that is still a big a vast selection of doors, I would say. But the point is, I like to stay in a place where all these doors are open. But when all these doors are open, um, you're not actually going through any of them. You're in the room. Oh shit. You're in the room with doors, but in order to actualize any of the path, you have to go through that door, which in turn closes all the other doors. And I cannot, or I have been struggling to do that. Um, I wouldn't say I'm a complete Puer Aeternus. I feel that I am still actionable. I've seen results. I take action, but um, I would say a lot of times, a lot of things are in that state, unanchored state of only ideals and potentials and not tangible realizations. And Puer Aeternus people hate Puer Aeterni, I guess. Puer Aeterni hate mundane, hate being normal part of the statistics. Just another number. They're narcissists, I guess, which fair enough. And it makes me think, I don't think I was always like that, or maybe I was. I've been thinking back about why I am like this, and there's a lot. I think a big one is I used to not I'm kind of getting back to sort of that quiet person, but I used to really be a quiet person and don't like too much attention, I think. And that was but then I joined I wasn't like that into it, but I joined this theater club, like a very official theater association, I would say, in Japan. I was there from end of elementary to the start of middle school, like a few years, where you actually perform, on stage, singing, dancing, acting. I mostly did the dancing. That's like the generic role, I would say. I did some singing, but as a group, because my singing is terrible. I remember one of the performance, it was only a few guys, and I really didn't want to ruin it all, so I only acted like I was singing. And then I've had like a part once in Aladdin where I was a thief that stole bread, I guess, which is a really unneeded role now that I think about it. I know it was like part of the script, but it takes away from the complexity of the protagonist. I mean, it's Disney, but the thief was basically at the start of it was all musical. At the start of the play musical, I would basically steal the bread and then give it to Aladdin, and then the police there would think Aladdin stole it, and then it goes down this musical number. But that takes away from the fact that Aladdin was only stealing because he's poor and is barely surviving. Now he's just a bystander that was unlucky. I don't like that writing. But understand it was like a kids musical, so maybe they made it nicer. I'm not sure. But anyways, That was a tangent. My point is, Puer Aeternus, it could be that maybe it's something to do with only childs, you know. Or now that I have siblings, but there was a large window that would window of ears for me that that kind of builds more of the core character in me, I feel. I don't know. I still internally debate about if, you know, the early childhood ears really become that rigid, you know. But sometimes I think it does. But anyways, I'm not very succinct in my articulation. I guess I'm always, but yeah. So what did I want to say? It could be that I sometimes think even like just being left-handed is some sort of rosebud. What else? I don't know. There must be. I think it's a multitude of things that led to this sort of uh, led to how I resemble this sort of archetype. And well, I guess it makes sense, the only child part, because maybe I was spoiled, but more so uh, because I had a lot of time being alone, I would engage in my thoughts and usually in certain like fantasies and stories. That's why I'm also interested in story writing. But yeah, I think maybe that's why. And then eventually these mental indulgence led to anxiety of the future, basically. Or I guess anxiety, like envisioning worrying the future, sort of. That's the weird sort of fantasy that's self-destructive. I don't know. Maybe that's different. Who knows? But my point is, Puer Aeternus, that I've struggled to sacrifice. Oh, another thing is, I also feel that this Puer Aeternus thing has sort of been growing, and sometimes I feel that it has only recently gotten way bigger of how I go into this fantasy world, I think. Like I want escapism. Um, it, I want escapism. I indulge in escapism. And it gets worse and worse and worse, I think. Although it's been ups and downs. I know for I guess I'm still indulging escapism because of phone, you know, which is definitely another aspect of why why this is happening. Although the Puer Aeternus thing is that I or we or the archetype makes excuses on something external. So is this something like that? Am I doing that right now? But does that make sense that I chose to be Puer Aeternus? Or maybe the point right now is I could choose not to be right now, and I'm putting responsibility on external things, including my past self, and therefore I'm trying to stay as a Puer Aeternus. I don't know, but my my point is, it's not something that should be completely abandoned, or at least there's a good in Puer Aeternus in the sense that it helps with creativity, or that it is creativity. And to grow up from the Puer Aeternus is to actualize that creativity, and that's when, I guess, I don't know what's wrong with my articulation. Maturation today. Maturation. Yeah. That's probably it. I don't know why I'm talking. I feel like I'm talking erratically right now, which is weird. I think it also has to do with my diet. I've been eating way too much. And I want to go back to 2 meals a day, which was perfect. I do 3 meals a day. What my company does is they provide like snack around like 2:30, and I always eat it. It was like lemon cake today, which, oh man, it's really nice, but I gotta stop eating. Yeah, and I feel I have less motivation, and my mind becomes a bit more fuzzy with all these carbs, and fat. So I gotta start working on eating less, which would help with my finances as well. So yeah. So that's, I don't know. I feel like I had more to say about the Puer Aeternus. It is being a man-child. And I think, oh yeah, and the point is that after working in this company, I have this strong desire to just go back home. Kind of engage in, to not be able to overcome the stage of woman as a temptress, to seek comfort and safety. I feel that stage, at least for me, is really about engaging or staying within the confines of this archetype. I basically equate the archetype to the stage. So in a sense, I'm doing a lot of disservice to my personal growth by going back. Something that is one perspective, right? And then if I'm really just indulging in my Puer Aeternus, the question is, when I go back, will I really be able to work on film and storytelling? I mean, my thought is I have to. That's like, I don't have much choice, So in that sense, I'm actually closing doors. The door being actually the sciences, because that's how I see it. I see that, in a sense, I am not working even harder to really actualize. I feel this job was, to get to this job was definitely a road of trials, but it's like the beginning, the role I had wasn't really science, or I'm still working. The role I have isn't really science, although it's a good company, it's a good CV, and from what I understand, it's going to be much easier to find the next job, especially searching for it while I'm working. So that's when it's really actualizing, but instead I'm returning. So it's like, you know, I was at the doorstep to actualize. I guess I saw inside the hallway to pass the door, and I went nope. So I'm back to this state of like pure potential and no tangibility. Um, but but you could say that I saw past the door and realized, no, this is not the path, and I'm going to the other door. Closing this door, going to the other door. Um, and yeah, I don't know. I think I talked to my mom, and I put a deadline saying 2 years. 2 years maximum. I stay um, back at my mom's place. Um, and I definitely have enough savings for that already. Although most of it's emergency fund, the core emergency fund, which I don't really want to spend. So my plan is to still do some sort of part-time during like on a Saturday or Sunday, just once a week, just so I can sustain myself. You know, and see where that goes. And it's like 2 years deadline, but ideally I find a new place to move. It's kind of funny. My friend said we should room. I really see myself getting really sick of him or arguing with him because I'm very particular, idiosyncratic, with how I like to live. And I don't expect anyone to keep up, and therefore it's going to be a struggle probably to work it out. I don't think my friend is the type to really listen as well, and he has his own way. So I don't know. I understand, like, it would be cool to room with friends, but I don't know if it would be the right idea. Although I'm also thinking, like, maybe just a few months, see how it goes. Like, just a year is fine. Because I would say, if you think about lease, like rental contracts, it'll probably be at least a year, right? So I could try if things work out, if I have enough money to move, that is. Although I'm still paying my mom anyway, so it really becomes a matter of financial cost benefit as well. So, but here's the thing, right? I do fantasize, but I try to make realistic plans, and I think the fantasy allows a bit of disillusioned self-concept, but that in turn sort of also helps achieve certain things. In a sense, I was thinking like surviving in a completely foreign continent that I've never been to for 4 years. I obviously, at certain points, I could not, have enough money, so I had to ask, or I had to ask, or there was like certain situations where I was gifted some financial support, just enough, So it's not like I had no help, but every day for me was thinking about, am I paying too much for food, and just making it to the next rent. And it's it's complete. Did I say disillusion? Illusion. Delusion. Delusion. Delusion is completely delusional that to think I could just work it out. I didn't do any research, barely any research for the country. I just thought, oh, the university curriculum looks nice. It has an interdisciplinary aspect where I can study both science and the arts, which I did. I think that was really good. But I really thought I could just survive. I mean, I did. I even got a job, you know. Even the idea of, oh, I could probably get a job here despite only bachelor's and with just networking stuff, somehow worked, which I also think was a bit delusional, but it worked out in the end. So I fantasize. There is a delusional aspect where it doesn't meet reality, but because of that, I feel that I still take action just above where it's more realistic for me, and that helps me achieve sort of things that usually wouldn't be able to achieve, I think. Or I'm just overinflating my ego right now. But my point is that sure, Puer Aeternus, but I would say I'm delusional enough to think I can do this and I'll act on it. The film career, I think. But also this like all or nothing idea is also Puer Aeternus, right? So it's difficult. Maybe I can do like a small part-time in the sciences. But my fear is I end up just going back to doing some sort of work and putting the film stuff in the background. That I don't want to do that. So, yeah. So that's what I want to do. Yeah. So my point is a bit fuzzy. Puer Aeternus, that's the answer for why I feel like others are more mature than me. They're able to sacrifice. It's also that I have. Oh, another big thing is religion. So, this transition I had, I was able to intellectually understand mortality, but emotionally, I would say through this indulgence of this archetype, I have not really accepted mortality yet. That I still fantasize a world where I'm immortal. I still do, although sometimes I also think it's not possible for me to really memento mori, because when I really think about the end of my existence, I start to have a panic attack. So I put this mental blockade, sort of. This actually I wanted to talk about, but I never got a chance. It's like this semantic seal, or symbolic seal, semiotic seal, no, symbolic seal, where I can talk about death, I can talk about mortality, but my brain is only accessing the linguistic symbol, linguistic meaning, or linguistic image of mortality, if that makes sense. But my mind is currently not fully engaging in the thought of actual mortality. that it's sealed away in layers of symbols, if that makes sense. Or have I don't know if I've ever talked about this, but a great explanation for this symbolic seal is thinking about the idea of 1,000. Um, when you think about the idea of 1,000, you're thinking about 1,000 as a singular unit, even though 1,000 is technically 1,000 units. But it takes way more mental energy, and it's less efficient to conceptualize in your head 1,000 different units of thought. So you only think about one unit of thought, which is 1,000. It's sort of like that you replace a concept with a different symbol for communication, or for more efficient and easier mental access. So when I talk about death, I'm not really thinking about death. I'm not really engaging in it. I'm just feeling death through its linguistic image. I hope that made sense. But that, all of it is my avoidance from mortality. Which I don't know how I'm gonna deal with that, honestly. But I think it's good to know that one of the main reasons I am Puer Aeternusing is to avoid death. But ironically, Puer Aeternus is a sort of archetype that never ends up living life because of how scared they are of death. So it's like analysis paralysis. Basically, the greatest fear, I would say, coming from a Puer Aeternus, is to have an unspent life, to have a life that was wasted. And ironically, that fear leads to wasting life by not spending it properly. So it's good that I've come across this, luckily, and it really reflects my current situation, because it's dual, you know. It's juxtaposed between, is this dual perspective that I'm here, that it's on one side I am really going full send into Puer Aeternus, and I'm not gonna go back. I really fell into this whole fantasy. I can't take reality anymore, and I just want to escape. Or it's actually the opposite, that I am finally starting to close doors, and I'm working towards actualization and making my life meaningful. You could really see it from two sides of what I'm trying to do right now, which is also terrifying in a sense, because what is actually going on, you know? Am I wasting life, or am I engaging in life? And it really comes down to actualization. That's why right after this, I'm going to work on the film project I'm making right now. It's one of the ideas I had for a while, and it's a time-gated project because it's about the city I live in. And if I can't finish it before I leave, which is like in 2 months' time now, I'm fucked. I can't work on that film anymore. So symbolically, that film, well, I think the Puer Aeternus idea is this all or nothing way. So I don't want to say all or nothing, but it is also a way of proving to myself that I can actually work. I have discipline to work on film. So yeah, that's kind of where I am, and I hope things work out. I think the last thing is I don't know, but living here, I really felt like, well, Clockwork Orange is the best description. It's funny because for the longest time I thought the film didn't make sense because I believe that you can adapt and you can change. You can become a clock from an orange. But these past 4 years, I didn't feel like myself. I felt like I couldn't be honest. That's also why I'm doing this, you know. I don't have an outlet of honesty. So I'd rather do it to the void. So yeah, I'm hoping I go back, I start working on what is really true to me, and at least hang out with friends that I can be more honest with, so I can regain, you know, take away these machinations that don't work on an orange, because an orange is not a clock. And see, hopefully I return to an orange, you know. Well, we'll see, but we'll see. I have to work on that. So that's what it is. So Puer Aeternus, conclusion. I'll give a conclusion. So my conclusion is that for a while I've always felt that there's something immature in me, or at least others seem more mature than me. I couldn't quite grasp it. And there's probably other aspects, but one aspect is that I do fit the Jungian archetype Puer Aeternus, which is a personality trait, I guess, that engages a lot in fantasy and cannot accept reality including mortality or just anything, because they have an expectation and reality never meets that expectation. And that Puer Aeternus wants to be in a state of potential and never actualization, because moving from potential to actualization includes sacrifices, which and commitment, which sort of unravels mortality. I didn't talk about that, but that's, I think, another important part. And I'm at a sort of a turning point right now where I could either further engage in the sciences, continue this career I just started, or end it and do work on film and story writing. And I chose to work on film and story writing. And that is, in a sense, closing the doors and choosing a door. Or it could also mean that I cannot face the mundane reality of pursuing this current career. And so I'm falling into this complete realm of fantasy. And the situation is that it could be either. The difference comes in when this new journey starts, if I can actualize. The amulet to overcome or evolve from Puer Aeternus is actualization. I don't think I have to completely face mortality. All I have to do really is to actualize, to commit. So that's what I want to work on. And as a proof, I am currently trying to work on a film project that shows that I can actualize for myself, really. So I don't take responsibility, not to. I don't take responsibility. I do take responsibility, but no, never mind. I do take responsibility, but I just gonna work hard. Yeah, doesn't mean I'm going to just say fuck it for my current job. I want to still do good until the contract ends, or do decent. I don't want to work too hard because I don't know. It's just not nice working hard for something that doesn't mean anything to you. But